Your Way, a public service created by America's cable companies.
We'll go live now to the House for one vote on a measure debated earlier today dealing with printing bills and resolutions.
92, a bill to amend Title 44, United States Code, to eliminate the mandatory printing of bills and resolutions by the Government Printing Office for use of the House of Representatives and Senate.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill as amended? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote.
The House finished a couple hours of debate this afternoon on the repeal of the health care law. More debate tomorrow with a final vote expected. The House voting now on a bill that would eliminate the requirement that the Government Printing Office print hard copies of all bills and resolutions introduced in Congress for use in congressional offices. Going forward, the text of the bills would be given to members' offices in only an electronic format. During this lone vote, we'll continue on health care. First, a quick recap of what happened on the repeal bill on the House floor today. Todd Zwillich of The Takeaway from Public Radio International and WNYC joining us. How's the debate to repeal the health care law going so far?
Well, it's continuing on the House floor. They just had members of the Judiciary Committee on the Republican and Democratic side do their turn. What they're doing on the House floor is having the different committees of jurisdiction each take a turn in the 7 hours of debate. So Judiciary just finished up here. A lot of people might be wondering what the tone of the debate is right now, given discussions about political rhetoric and the tone of that rhetoric, especially in light of violence in Tucson, Arizona, involving Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. I would say that so far the debate has been about policy, has been relatively high-minded, no personal attacks, no incendiary rhetoric. There's certainly a lot of opposition to the health care bill on the Republican side, and they're forcefully stating that opposition, but they're stating it on policy grounds. Democrats are defending the bill and attacking the Republicans' policies, but that's what they're here to do. So far it's been basically around policy.
So when those 7 hours of debate is done, how are the votes expected to stack up?
Well, you're going to be looking at probably unanimous Republican votes to repeal the health care, the Affordable Care Act. And we're looking at a handful of Democrats who will probably also vote to repeal. Of course, you don't know how many that will be until the vote comes down. People around here are guessing anywhere between 6 and a dozen Democrats, and a couple of them may change their votes, saying, you know, at the time it seemed like a good thing to do, but the voters have spoken clearly in this last election. I will vote to repeal. Of course, this is an entirely political exercise here. Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader, has said he feels no motivation to put this bill on the Senate floor, and even if he did, it's almost impossible to imagine President Obama signing a repeal of his signature domestic policy victory. So a political exercise here, mostly almost all Republicans for repeal, nearly all Democrats against.
Well, you mentioned Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. Today, House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, the Republican from Virginia, said that if Harry Reid has the votes to stop the repeal bill, he should go ahead and schedule the vote. What was that? Was that a dare?
It sort of sounded like it. That's what many of us in the room took it as, sort of a dare. I don't know that it's going to move Senator Reid off of his position at all. He controls the Senate floor, and also don't forget, once something is on the Senate floor, he doesn't have complete control over the parameters of the debate. Republicans who are in favor of repeal could file lots and lots of amendments and keep a repeal debate going on for much longer than Harry Reid ever would have liked. So it doesn't operate like the House, where if you have the votes, toss it on the floor and let the chips fall where they may. The Senate's a little more complicated than that. Harry Reid knows it, and since he controls which bills come to the floor and which do not, he'd probably rather never see the light of day over there.
Todd Zwillich of The Takeaway is a Washington correspondent for Public Radio International and WNYC. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So assuming the health care bill passes in the House tomorrow, Republicans plan to bring up on Thursday a resolution to direct 4 House committees to come up with legislation that could replace the health care law. A Congressional Quarterly reporting that the legislation reported by the committees would have to meet various goals, such as changing the medical liability system, fostering economic growth, reducing insurance premiums, increasing the number of insured Americans, and prohibiting federal funding for abortions. So that resolution expected on Thursday in the House if the House passes the repeal of the health care legislation tomorrow. We plan to focus on health care on C-SPAN tonight in our overnight programming after the House is out. We'll see all of the health care repeal debate from today, then get a couple of perspectives on changing the law. First from the National Center for Policy Analysis, and then from the House Democratic Steering and Policy Committee. While the House focuses on health care tomorrow, our live coverage here on C-SPAN as always, on C-SPAN 2, we'll have the arrival ceremony at the White House for Chinese President Hu Jintao, who's in the U.S. for a few days. That's happening live at 9 a.m. Eastern. Then at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, the House Foreign Affairs Committee will hold a hearing on U.S.-China relations. Then just after 1 Eastern, a joint news conference with President Obama and President Hu. And then tomorrow night there will be a state dinner at the White House, and our coverage starts at 5:15 to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time with guest arrivals, President Hu's arrival, and also toasts for the state dinner tomorrow night. 8 o'clock Eastern Time, a look at U.S.-China policy with interviews and your calls, and that's all live on C-SPAN 2 tomorrow. So getting back to health care, during the rest of this vote, you'll see Republicans and Democrats on debate from today.
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to begin by saying why we're doing this. And I want to get into the accounting of all of this at a later time in this debate. But let me just simply say why we are here. We are here because we heard the American people in the last election. We are here because we believe it's really important to do in office what you said you would do. We said we would have a straight up or down vote to repeal this health care law, and that's precisely what we are doing here today. Now, Mr. Speaker, why do we believe this? Because this health care law, if left in place, will accelerate our country's path toward bankruptcy. This health care law, if left in place, will do as the President's own chief actuary says will do, will increase health care costs. We're already seeing premiums go up across the board. We're already hearing from thousands of employers across the country who are talking about dropping their employer-sponsored health insurance. And we're already hearing from the lack of choices that consumers will get as this new law is put into place. This new law is a fiscal house of cards, and it is a health care house of cards. It does not make our health care system better. I would argue it makes it weaker. There's 2 ways to attack this problem. And I want to say in the outset to my friends on the other side of the aisle, we agree that health care needs fixing. We agree that there are so many serious, legitimate problems in health care that need fixing. Affordable insurance, the uninsured, people with high health care costs and high health care risks, those need to be addressed. But we can fix what's not working in health care without breaking what's working in health care. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I would simply say this. We believe we can get to the moment of having affordable health care for every American, regardless of pre-existing conditions, without having the government take it over, without $1 trillion of a combination of Medicare benefit cuts and tax increases. We believe in this. Let's have health care reform put the patient in charge, not the government in charge. I yield myself an additional 20 seconds to simply say, recognized. We believe that health care ought to be individually based, ought to be patient-centered. There's 2 ways to go. Put the government in charge and have the government put in place the rationing mechanisms to tighten the screws and ration health care, or put the consumer in charge and have providers compete for our business as patients, hospitals, doctors, insurers. That's the system we want. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves balance of time. Gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself 4 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope the tenor and substance of the debate we have in this House over the next few days will be worthy of the American people and reflect well on this Congress. Many of us believe we should focus our efforts here today on measures to help people put back to work, rather than on a bill that takes away important patient and consumer protections. And we don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to debate a bill that thankfully will go nowhere in the Senate and would certainly be vetoed by the President. However, the Republican majority is entitled to use its time here as it chooses, and while we believe we should be doing that focused on jobs, perhaps this debate will clear up many of the myths and misinformation about the health care law that was signed by President Obama. I'm interested to hear my colleagues say that they can identify with all the problems in the health care system. Between the year 2000 and 2006, premiums in this country doubled, health insurance company profits quadrupled, and this Congress did nothing. Why not put your plan on the table first so everybody can see it before you begin taking away the important patient protections in this bill, taking effect just since last March? And within that 9-month period, that law has made an important and positive difference to millions of Americans. In fact, we wished our Republican colleagues would take a few days, maybe even just a few hours, to have congressional hearings to listen to those individuals and families. The new Republican majority said it wanted to listen to the American people, but it has not invited a single American outside this Congress to a hearing to testify on the repeal bill we are debating today. And as a result, we on the other side of the aisle have had to schedule an unofficial hearing. It's going on right now, not 100 yards from where we debate, in the Capitol Visitor Center. And I encourage all of you to drop by, because if you do, you're going to hear some stories. You're going to hear the stories from moms and dads of young people who tell you how they're relieved that their sons and daughters are no longer kicked off their insurance policies when they turn age 22 or graduate from college, and can now stay on their parents' insurance plan until the age of 26. As a result, if their 20-year-old child gets sick or hit by an automobile or another terrible accident, they can get care without the family going bankrupt. You will hear from moms and dads with kids who have cancer and asthma and diabetes or other pre-existing conditions telling you they're relieved that finally insurance companies can't deny their children coverage because of pre-existing conditions. And you will hear from senior citizens who were unable to pay for the huge prescription costs of their bills, and then as of January 1st of this year, they're getting a 50% discount, and they can afford to pay for the medicines their doctors say they need. And you'll hear from small businesses, and the number of small businesses using the tax credit has exceeded everyone's expectation. You'll hear from those small businesses saying they can now afford to purchase affordable coverage for their employees, and as a result, hire more people. You would hear all that and more. And that is why it is such a mistake. It's a historic mistake to take away these patient protections and throw these individuals back over to the whims and the many abuses of the insurance industry. There's no doubt that the insurance industry will be popping champagne bottles if the health care law was ever to be repealed. Let's put the interests of our constituents, patients, and consumers first in this debate.
Time has expired.
I yield myself an additional 30 seconds.
Gentleman is recognized.
And let's make sure that as we do this, we tackle the deficit and the debt. I listened to my colleague talk about the debts, but we all know that the independent, nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, in a letter to Speaker Boehner dated January 6, 2011, indicated that repealing this bill will increase the deficit by over $200 billion over the first 10 years and by another $1.2 trillion over the second 10 years. Now, our colleagues have criticized those findings, but they're the same people who they applauded when the numbers came back their way. So, Mr. Speaker, I thank you, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Reserves. Gentleman from Wisconsin.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, this time I'd like to yield 2 minutes to a new member, but a senior member of Congress, the gentleman from California, Mr. Calvert.
Gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of H.R. 2, a bill that would repeal the disastrous government takeover of health care. The more we learn about the new health care law, the more we understand how devastating it will be to our economy. Already, employers across the country have suffered increases in their health premiums as a result of the health care law. Yet we were told that the bill would bend the health care curve downward. We were told the bill would reduce the deficit by $143 billion over 10 years. However, we know the figures given to the CBO did not accurately reflect the law's real costs. When you add back the $115 billion needed to implement the law and subtract the bill's double accounting of revenue and other budgetary gimmicks, the true cost is a staggering $700 billion over 10 years. We were told the bill would protect the uninsured, yet all it does is roll them into Medicaid, a low-performing program that has resulted in more people turning to the ER for their medical needs. We were told this bill would help seniors, and instead it guts Medicare Advantage, leaving 50% of beneficiaries on the verge of losing their current coverage. What happened to the promise that if you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan? In addition to all the false promises, the health care bill will impose $52 billion in new taxes on businesses. Our economy relies on the ability of businesses to grow, hire, invest, and succeed. The new taxes will devastate our economy, turn the American dream into a nightmare. The bottom line is that we cannot afford this new health care law, no matter how well-intentioned. We must repeal Obamacare, replace it with legislation that decreases health care costs, increases competition in the marketplace, maintains the sanctity of doctor-patient relationships, and truly helps those without insurance. I urge my colleagues to vote in favor of H.R. 2, and with that I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Maryland.
At this time, Mr. Speaker, I yield 2.5 minutes to the gentlelady from Pennsylvania, Ms. Schwartz.
Gentlelady is recognized. 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, and I rise to speak very forcefully, I hope, about the importance of proceeding with the health care bill, the health care law that we have in place, and the incredible protections that it is providing to literally millions of Americans in each and every one of our districts, and each one of us, I think, have heard from them. The new health care law reduces the deficit. We're here talking about from the Budget Committee. It is going to reduce the deficit while promoting more efficient and higher quality care. Reducing the deficit and slowing the growth of health care costs means real savings to American families, American businesses, and to the federal government. And yet, their first major act in the majority, congressional Republicans want to repeal this law. Repealing the protections for Americans with pre-existing conditions. We just heard this morning the Washington Post reported on a study that says that 1/2 of all Americans under the age of 65 have a pre-existing condition. So this isn't just about a few of us. It's about, really, it's about almost all of us. We all know someone, we may all love someone who has a pre-existing condition. The Republicans got their way, and they will probably in the House, but fortunately not in the Senate. They would repeal the protections for Americans with pre-existing conditions who, particularly children, can now already be covered. They will repeal the new law that says annual limits for coverage if you have cancer will be repealed. It will repeal the prescription drug benefits for our seniors, and it will repeal tax credits for small businesses. And in doing so, they will add to the cost for American taxpayers. Let's be clear on what this means. Repeal increases the deficit by $252 billion over 10 years and $1.4 trillion over 20. Repeal reverses progress in getting health care costs under control, causing families and businesses, and yes, the government, which really means the taxpayers, to face higher health care costs. It repeals the benefits for millions of Americans, important consumer protections and insurance reform, such as making sure that the children with pre-existing conditions have coverage. And the repeal means starting over. You're going to hear it over and over again, I think, over the next 7 hours. What starting over means is no consumer protections and months and maybe years of just talk. Possibly no action while the costs go up for American businesses, go up for our families, and go up for our nation.
It's expired.
Can I have another half a minute? 30 seconds, we'll try.
I yield Ms. Schwartz another 30 seconds.
That's great.
The lady's recognized for 30
Just to
seconds.
say that let's be clear that the new rules allow the Republicans to do this, but it's going to cost trillions of dollars to our budget, and it's going to cost greater suffering for the American people. So it's a wrong course of action. Let's not repeal this bill. It will hurt Americans, it will hurt our economic competitiveness, and it will hurt the fiscal condition of this nation. And I encourage a no vote, and I yield back.
The lady yields back. The gentleman from Wisconsin.
At this time, Mr. Speaker, I want to yield myself 3 minutes' time. First, though, before I do that, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend the remarks and include extraneous material on H.R. 2.
Without objection.
And now, at this time, I'd like to yield myself 3 minutes to address some of the charges I've heard.
3 minutes.
Number one, they're saying this is a jobs bill. $500 billion in tax increases creates jobs. The mandates, the taxes, that creates jobs. Others have been saying, well, this isn't going to pass the Senate and the President's not going to sign it, so why bother doing that? If that's the logic we take on every bill we bring to the floor, then we ought to just go home. We think it's important to define ourselves with our actions, and that's why we're acting. We think this law should be totally repealed.
On this vote, the yeas are 399, the nays are 0, and 0 recorded as present. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Without objection, the title is amended. Thank you. In order. House will be in order. Now what do I do? House will be in order. They're like going, oh yeah? House will be in order. Should I ask? Would all members please remove their conversations from the floor? House will be in order. House will be in order. Will all members please remove their conversations from the floor? The chair is prepared to entertain 1-minute requests. Will the House be in order? Nobody's even getting up. Does the gentlewoman from New York rise? House will be in order. Gentleman's correct. The House is not in order. Will members please take their conversations from the floor? The House is not in order. Will members please take their conversations from the floor? For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New York rise?
I have a 1-minute speech, Madam Speaker.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to inform this House of Representatives that on January 8, 2011, Central New York lost a great friend, and this august body lost a former member, William Francis Walsh.
Will the gentlewoman suspend? The House is not in order. The gentlewoman deserves to be heard. The gentlewoman from New York is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to inform the House of Representatives that on January 8, 2011, Central New York lost a great friend, and this august body lost a former member, William Francis Walsh. William Walsh, World War II veteran, former mayor of Syracuse, and member of this House of Representatives from 1973 to 1979, passed away at his home in Marcellus, New York, at the age of 98. Mr. Walsh played a significant role in the shaping of the political landscape of Central New York for more than 30 years. He returned home from World War II.
Ben. Gentleman's correct. The House is not in order. Gentlewoman from New York is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Walsh played a significant role in the shaping of the political landscape of Central New York for more than 30 years. He returned home from World War II, during which he served as an Army captain and completed graduate studies at the University of Buffalo in social work. His training and experience as a social worker would provide him with values reference points for his future political career. In 1959, voters elected him to the post of the County Welfare Commissioner. Over the course of his political career, he consistently demonstrated his compassion for the less fortunate, and he was instrumental in developing welfare-to-work programs. William Walsh was elected mayor of the city of Syracuse in 1961. During his tenure, widespread major changes to the downtown Syracuse occurred. Syracusans remember Bill Walsh for his approachability and his emphasis on constituent service. That attention to the needs of the constituents served the district well when Mr. Walsh became a member of Congress in 1973. Bill Walsh loved Syracuse. The child of Irish immigrants, Michael and Mary Ellis Walsh, Bill Walsh always remained connected to the community he grew up in. His strong sense of community colored his commitment to public service, and he passed that commitment on to his children. He and his wife, the late Mary Dorsey, raised 7 children. Their son, Jim Walsh, served in Congress from 1989 to 2009. And two of his other children, Bill Walsh and Martha Walsh Hood, currently serve as Onondaga County judges. Mr. Walsh enjoyed hunting, golf, and outdoors. Most importantly, though, he was a devoted father who spent time with his children, teaching them about life, people, and public service. He will be greatly missed by his family, friends, and the Syracuse community. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Are there further requests for 1 minute? Chair recognizes the gentleman from Georgia.
Madam Speaker, I request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revising similar.
Without objection.
Like the house built upon a rock, America was created upon the solid foundation of the Constitution. With the passage of Obamacare, liberals have drilled holes in the rock and foundation of our nation. Madam Speaker, I rise today that restores our economic freedom. It repeals the bureaucratic boondoggle of Obamacare, and it replaces it with common sense solutions. By allowing individuals to shop for health care across state lines, the cost of health care is reduced through basic free market solutions. Instead of adding massive new debts to fund an equally massive bureaucracy, my plan allows people to deduct 100% of their health care expenses. My bill also creates high-risk pools and allows health care associations to form, empowering America to get coverage that they need at a much lower cost. Madam Speaker, residents of the 10th District of Georgia overwhelmingly oppose Obamacare. I'm proud to fulfill my commitment to repeal it and replace it with some common sense solutions.
Madam Speaker, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentlewoman, for what purpose is the gentlewoman from Texas rise? Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I've listened for a couple of hours to the debate on health care, and we'll have additional hours going forward today, tomorrow. I think it is important that each member look carefully at their own congressional area and as well their own state. I hope maybe I'll be able to convince a few members of the reality of the state of Texas. And by the way, I don't know how far this legislation will go. We expect a victory on the repeal tomorrow. I don't want Americans to be frightened who need this bill. Mr. President, be prepared to use your veto pen. But Texas is the #1 state with uninsured. It has grown over 5 times. Our health care premiums have grown 5 times faster than income, and 500,000 middle-class workers lost their private insurance. In Harris County, where many of us live, more than 800,000 will be put on the health care rolls if this bill continues to go forward, meaning the patient protection bill. But if the repeal goes, we'll throw 800,000 people to the wolves. There is a reason to support this bill, particularly in Texas, that has an enormous number of uninsured. I yield back.
For what purposes, gentleman from Indiana rise?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, an extraordinary event happened in my district. A high school, Fishers High School, after being in existence for only 5 years, won the state 5A high school football championship. And I just wanted to congratulate Coach Rick Wimmer and his Tigers for doing such an outstanding job. You know, many schools that have been in existence for a long time do great things, but to do it in only 5 years is really extraordinary. So congratulations to this great school.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New York rise? Without objection.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in strong opposition to repealing health care reform. I am committed to working with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to create jobs and improve our nation's economy. We need to focus on jobs right now, not repealing health care reform. In fact, last year the private sector created some 1.1 million jobs. That is more private sector job growth created in 2010 alone than during all of the Bush administration. Fully 200,000 of those jobs, 1 out of every 5, were in the health care industry. In the Capital Region alone, repeal would strip benefits from some 439,000 individuals with health insurance and 113,000 seniors on Medicare. My constituents would lose guaranteed coverage for their pre-existing conditions, coverage for young adults, lower drug prices for seniors, and free preventative care for people with insurance coverage and Medicare. Madam Speaker, repealing health care reform to return to the old status quo, where insurance companies run amok and put profits over people, is irresponsible and reckless for our nation and our economy. And with that, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana rise? Without objection. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On December 21st, 2010, Lance Corporal William Harry Krause IV, age 22, died of wounds sustained while supporting combat operations in the Helmand province in Afghanistan. As a field artillery cannoneer assigned to the 1st Battalion, 10th Marine Regiment, 2nd Marine Division, 2nd Marine 2nd Marine Force, Lance Corporal Krause was serving his first deployment to Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, where he had been for 6 weeks. Born June 13, 1988 in Angola, Indiana, Lance Corporal Krause joined the Marine Corps in November 2007 and was promoted to Lance Corporal August 1, 2008. Lance Corporal Krause's awards and decorations include the Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal, and the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal. Lance Corporal Krause is survived by his mother Nancy and stepfather Vinnie Siders of Fort Wayne, his brothers Nathan and Ryan, and his sisters Jennifer Chafee and Jennifer Hartman. After quickly being promoted to Lance Corporal Krause selflessly gave his life as a service to defend our country's freedom in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. My heart goes out to his family, and I want to express my deepest gratitude to them both for the sacrifice they have made for our nation. And I yield back my time.
Are there further 1-minute requests? The chair lays before the House the following personal requests.
Leaves of absence requested for Mr. Hunter of California for today, Mr. Austria of Ohio for Friday, January 7th, and Ms. McCollum of Minnesota for today.
Without objection, the requests are granted. For what purpose does the gentlelady from California rise?
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that today, following legislative business and any special orders heretofore entered into, the following members may be permitted to address the House for 5 minutes to revise and extend their remarks and include therein extraneous material. Mr. McDermott, Washington; Ms. Woolsey, California; Ms. Capter, Ohio; Mr. Blumenauer, Oregon; Mr. Keating, Maine; Ms. Lowy, New York.
Without objection. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that today, following legislative business and any special orders heretofore entered into, the following members may be permitted to address this House, revise and extend their remarks, and include therein extraneous material. Myself, Mr. Poe, for today, January 19th, 20th, and 24th. Mr. Jones for today, January 19th, 20th, and 24th. Mr. Dole for today, Dr. Paul for January 19th and 20th. Mr. Burton for today, January 19th and 20th, Mrs. Burkle for today, Mr. Frelinghuysen for today, Mr. Paulson for today, Ms. Ross-Layton for today and January the 19th, Dr. Fleming for today, Mr. Dreyer for January the 19th and the 20th, and Ms. Fox for January the 19th and for today.
Without objection. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 5th, 2011, and under a previous order of the House, the following members are recognized for 5 minutes each. Poe of Texas, McDermott, Washington. Poe of Texas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to tell you about a good work that's going on in Houston, Texas. It's a it's a program that's not sponsored by the government. In fact, the government is not involved in this project at all. It all started 15 months ago when Amanda Gale and her mother, Linda Gale Lee, decided they would start going from Humble, Texas, my hometown, to downtown Houston, about 30 miles away, and start feeding the homeless. And so they fix hot meals for the homeless, and they go out to downtown Houston in a remote area of that city, and they feed those people every night a hot meal. And they've done it for 15 months. I call this Amanda Gale's Kitchen. And they're feeding the homeless, not just the homeless, but I believe these are the rejected homeless. These are the homeless that can't get into shelters. They don't live in shelters. They have all kinds of physical, emotional, and mental issues, and they live on the streets of Houston, Texas. And every night for 15 months, they've fed about 100 of these homeless individuals with a hot meal. A couple of months ago, the Houston Police Department came to where they were feeding and told them they needed to move to another location. The police department suggested the location, and they moved down the street. And every night, they feed the homeless. In fact, now they bring them blankets and sleeping bags because of the winter. Amanda Gale is now married to a preacher, Trey Herring, and he has continued this network of feeding the homeless and clothing them every night. They have networks all over the Houston area, some in a different county, where this hot food is brought in, cooked in kitchens, and they feed the inner city. It's an organized effort, and they enjoy doing it, and it's something that's important. But on December the 30th, even winter for Houston, the health department came in of the city of Houston and said, you can't do this anymore because you don't have a permit to distribute food. And you also cook this food in a kitchen that is not certified by the city of Houston. The health department said the poor is susceptible to disease, so we're going to shut you down. Like Amanda Gale said, I guess she said the health department would rather they go hungry, eat out of dumpsters, than to get a hot cooked meal from somebody that doesn't have a certified kitchen and doesn't have a permit to distribute food. In fact, the city of Houston cleanup crews have gone through this area and taken the sleeping bags and the blankets away from these individuals, and of course Amanda Gale and her kitchen folks continue to supply them with whatever they need. You know, Amanda Gale and Trey Herring have both tried to contact the health department. They have received no answer about why they were shut down and how they can reopen. Because, see, they want to follow the law. They want to do the right thing, but they want to help these people that they feed every night a hot meal that they don't have access to from some government program. This is a perfect example of the phrase that no good deed goes unpunished. And they are punishing this good couple for what they're trying to do. You know, I believe if the city of Houston had been around when the good Lord tried to feed the 5,000, they would have tried to prohibit that good work, since he had no permit to distribute food or had cooked those 2 fish and 5 loaves from a certified kitchen. They'd have closed him down, I'm sure. But, you know, government is the problem here. And government should help these people help people. All they want to do is feed the hungry every night. I'm not sure there's anybody in the House that would do this, but they do it because they want to help people that are in need. So I hope the city of Houston will figure out a way to let Trey and Amanda Gale and those other people in Amanda Gale's kitchen feed the hungry, clothe those that need to be clothed, and take care of those out there on the street that are there not by choice but because of circumstances. And the city of Houston needs to figure out a way that the government is not the problem, but help this good couple do this good work and let them continue to gather with the city, make sure that certain people in our city, in Houston, Texas, are taken care of every night. And that's just the way it is. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair lays before the House a personal request.
Leave of absence requested for Ms. Yvette Clark of New York for today.
Without objection, the request is granted. Mr. McDermott of Washington is recognized for 5 minutes. Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to encourage my Republican colleagues to start having an honest debate about the health care law, which they call a job-killing law, because it polls well, but not because it's true. It seems pretty clear, especially from listening to the Republican attack ads during the last campaign, that the Republican pollsters have found the key to winning the debate, and others, is by saying job killing as often as possible. If a Democrat said the sun rises in the east, the Republicans would say it's a job-killing sunrise. Republicans entitled the current bill we are debating the Repealing the Job-Killing Health Care Law Act. The basis for this job-killing rhetoric is a report that they released recently entitled Obamacare, a budget-busting, job-killing health care law. I've got a copy of it here if anybody wants to get it. All you have to do is contact the Republicans. Mr. Speaker, in the last Congress, we took up the challenge of reforming health care in this country because the system was broken and creating tremendous damage to the American economy. The fact is the health care law will help the economy. It will result in more efficiency, more stability of care, healthy Americans, and a fair cost. That's what the law will do. Now, Republicans have repeatedly misused statistics from the CBO to support their argument that the law is primarily a job killer. We are truly in a situation of Republican conclusions desperately in search of honest facts. Let's look at the typical example. The Republicans are twisting the views of experts to support their view. On the very first page of the report, House Republicans released on January 6th, entitled Obamacare, the Republicans state that according to a nonpartisan CBO office report from August 2010, the law will result in a loss of 650,000 jobs. Now, you can get that from the CBO. It's available for people to read. But if you actually go to what they cite from the CBO report, it's on page 48. The report really says that the economy will use less labor because many people will choose to work less or retire early in a result of the benefits in the new law. Let me read the exact quote from the Republican report. It says, the nonpartisan CBO has determined the law will reduce the amount of labor used in the economy by roughly 0.5%, an estimate that adds up to roughly 650,000 jobs. The Republican report, however, deliberately chops off the last part of the CBO's sentence to substantiate their claim. Here is the entire sentence. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that legislation on net will reduce the amount of labor used in the economy by a small amount, roughly 0.5%, primarily by reducing the amount of labor that workers choose to supply. CBO explicitly makes clear that jobs will not be lost, but instead that people will choose to work less in order to have a decent life with the new health care law. The American people won't be drowning in health care costs and risk to their coverage. Some evening on Friday, fly home to Seattle with me and meet the flight attendants from United Airlines. We have the oldest base in the country. Most of those women are working so that they can have health care benefits for their family because their husband has a job and no health care benefits. They're not flying for the pension. They're not flying for the salary. They're flying to keep their health care benefits until they can get to Medicare. The Republicans want to focus on their message no matter what the facts are. Republicans say that health care reform is bad for American business. The National Business Group on Health, a collection of nearly 300 large employers, including Walmart, Lockheed Martin, and others, disagree and say repeal will be bad for businesses. I close by quoting, in a somber splash of honesty, the economics editor of the Wall Street Journal. On January 6, just 2 weeks ago, he wrote, talking about repeal of the health care law. Now remember, this is the Wall Street Journal. Talking about repeal of the health care law may be a winning political strategy for Republicans, a rare way to please both workers and business executives. And here's what they finally end with. As long as they don't actually succeed in doing it. The health care law isn't a job-killing bill. It's good for business. It's good for American taxpayers. It's good for consumers. It's good for everybody in the society. And I urge my colleagues to recognize that words really do matter, and they should stop mischaracterizing the health care law and confusing the American people. I yield back the balance of my time.
The chair recognizes Mr. Jones, North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I had the honor and privilege of visiting the wounded warriors at Bethesda Naval Hospital. Each one of the young men I saw, the oldest being 23, is very special, as are all of our men and women in uniform. The medical staff at both Bethesda and Walter Reed is truly amazing. They have done a wonderful job repairing the broken bodies and spirits of our young service members. The number of wounded warriors returning from war has become more prevalent with the increased use of IEDs by the enemy. More and more of our young men and women are returning without their arms and legs. Tonight, Mr. Speaker, as a constant reminder of the pain of war, I show you this picture of a young triple amputee and his wife. This man gave his body for this country and will struggle for the rest of his life. How many more will have to return home in this condition? This young man and his wife have just returned from the hospital. He is in a wheelchair. He lost an arm and 2 legs, and he's looking at a beautiful American flag that was on the wall that had been drawn for him. It is time we declare victory and get our troops out of Afghanistan. It is evident that President Karzai does not appreciate our commitment. If he did, he would not be so corrupt. If he did, he would not have made the comments that he now has 3 main enemies: the Taliban, the United States, and the international community, as stated in the Washington Post on December the 13th. He said that if he had to choose sides today, he would choose the Taliban. The Taliban are killing American servicemen and women. Mr. Speaker, I've joined Dennis Kucinich as well as many other members of both parties in the hope that President Obama will keep his promise to start withdrawing our troops in July of this year. In closing, I would like to urge the American people to get engaged in this cause and to let their members of Congress know how they feel. They must encourage the members of Congress to vote to bring our troops home. The pain must end, and we can easily declare victory and bring our brave men and women home. Mr. Speaker, as I do all the time on the floor of the House when I speak, I ask God to please bless our men and women in uniform, to bless the families of our men and women in uniform, to ask God in His loving arms to hold the families who've given a child dying for freedom in Afghanistan and Iraq. I ask God to please bless the House and Senate that we will do what is right for the American people. I ask God to give strength, wisdom, and courage to President Obama that he will do what is right for the American people. And 3 times I will ask, God, please, God, please, God, please continue to bless America. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes Ms. Woolsey of California.
Mr. Speaker, our nation is now in its 10th straight year of war. The military occupation of Afghanistan is longer than any war in our nation's history. An entire generation of young people, including my 3 grandchildren who came with me to visit Washington for the swearing-in, is growing up knowing nothing but a nation at war. This war is not a just and moral war. It is a moral abomination with devastating human costs. And it's not just fiscally irresponsible and unsustainable, with a price tag of about $370 billion. But it is all of that. Perhaps the most tragic irony of this war is, for all the sacrifice, it's not even doing what it was supposed to do: keeping us safe and defeating a terrorist threat. If Iraq and Afghanistan have proven anything to us, Mr. Speaker, it's that we need an entirely new national security model, one that emphasizes brains over brawn, one that uses soft power instead of hard, one that protects America by relying on the most honorable American values: love of freedom, desire for peace, moral leadership, and compassion for the people of the world. With these values in mind, this week I've once again introduced a resolution calling for the adoption of a smart security platform. Smart security would redirect our energy and resources away from warfare, and it would focus instead on non-proliferation, conflict prevention, international diplomacy, and multilateralism. That means, Mr. Speaker, renewing our commitment to cooperation with other nations, the United Nations and other international institutions. Smart security would build on the New START treaty ratified last month and move us more aggressively toward a goal of eliminating all nuclear weapons. It would rearrange our budget priorities so we're no longer throwing billions of dollars at weapons systems designed for a different era, and instead invest in human capital around the world. That means addressing root causes of instability and violent conflict by increasing development aid and debt relief to poor countries. We would be supporting programs that promote sustainable development, that promote democracy building, human rights education, a strong civil society, gender equality, education for women and girls, and much, much more. The quadrennial Diplomacy and Development Review recently completed at the State Department reaffirms the principles underlying smart security, calling for civilian power to lead the way in resolving conflict and reducing threats around the world, with diplomacy and development mutually reinforcing one another. Also strongly recommending a renewed focus on the rights and inclusion of women and girls. The bottom line, Mr. Speaker, is that might doesn't make right. The conventional wisdom of peace through strength does not work, especially in an era with the greatest threats we face being non-state actors. A national security based on occupation and conquest has been given a chance to work over the last decade, and it has failed miserably. What we need in Afghanistan is a civilian surge, not a military surge. For the security of the American and the Afghan people, we need to be humanitarian partners, not military occupiers. It's time, Mr. Speaker, to bring our troops home and implement smart security principles, and it's time that we do it now. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes Mr. Dold of Illinois. For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana rise?
Well, since Mr. Bold is not present, I request unanimous consent to use his time.
Without objection, the gentleman's request is granted.
I'm Congressman Burton from Indiana. It's nice to see you in the chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, in October, 5 members of Congress wrote to the President, myself, Ted Poe of Texas, Ralph Hall of Texas, Pete Olson, and Ed Royce of California, and we asked the President to take more steps to deal with the problem on the Texas border, because people have been killed, beaten up down there, shots have been fired across the border, and 80 miles into the country, the United States of America, we have signs telling people, warning people not to go south of there because they might be in danger from Mexican drug cartels or people across the border that are spying or citing for the drug cartels. So there's a real problem. Well, we didn't get an answer back from the President, and so we wrote again in November. And again, we didn't get a reply. And then around the end of December, we got a reply from the Homeland Security from a fellow who's in legislative affairs, and he went through the same song and dance that they've gone through for a long time, talking about how they're solving the problem on the border. Now, just recently, in the last few weeks, 4 road workers were out there in Texas, and they were working on the roads trying to fill potholes with gravel and do some other things. It was a shovel-ready project, incidentally. And they were fired at from across the border, which was about a half a mile away. Now, the bullets didn't hit any of them, but it sure scared the dickens out of them. And Mike Doyle, the chief deputy of the Hudspeth County Sheriff's Office, said that a rancher spotted a white pickup truck fleeing the area on the Mexican side after the shots were fired. And they think that the drug cartel may have been firing those shots to divert attention away from what was going on there in order to get drugs smuggled across the border. Now, the reason I bring all this up once again is because we sent 17,000 National Guard troops down to deal with the oil spill in the Gulf. And it was something that we should have done. We should have dealt with that problem as quickly as possible to make sure that we stopped any environmental damage that might accrue from that, and to help the people of Louisiana who were suffering and the other border states down there. But we haven't done anything but send about 1,400 National Guard troops down to the border or close to the border, and many of them have been withdrawn. And we've got to do something to protect that 1,980-mile border between us and Mexico. Americans can't go within 50 miles of the border in Arizona, or 80 miles within the border, close to the border of Arizona and Mexico, because there's the threat for their safety and security. That is something that we cannot tolerate as a nation. We have a war going on the Mexican-American border, and we have to do whatever is necessary to protect Americans and to stop the drug trafficking coming across that border. We did it in Colombia with Plan Colombia, and that's not on our border. That's down south of the Panama Canal. And so we really need to address this problem. So if I were talking to the President tonight, Mr. Speaker, I would say, Mr. President, come on. Let's do what has to be done to protect our southern border. We're doing the job over in the Far East. We're doing the job over in the Middle East, and that's okay. But our border, our front yard is threatened every single day by these drug cartels and these terrorists coming across the border, and American ranchers and business people can't conduct their daily lives down there because there's no real security. So if I were talking to the President, I'd say, Mr. President, please review this issue. Don't ignore members of Congress, 5 members who wrote to you concerned about this issue. Don't ignore us. Do something about it. And please don't send us any more of these inane letters that really don't say anything about solving the problem. It's a real problem about the security of this country and the people who live down there and traverse that area. And, Mr. President, let's get on with it.
The gentleman yields back.
I yield back the balance of my time.
The chair recognizes Ms. Kaptur of Ohio.